Year 2021, month 11 or November. This is a short presentation in which I am going to be speaking some ideas I had about what computers became, the path taken in our society. This is mostly going to be kind of a negative and a downer. All right. So, academically, you have computer science, as we all know, not really about computers. Compute is just a verb. Computer used to be a person. Electrical computers have always been about replacing people, and it is not necessarily a science. A lot of people complain about how there's such a disconnect between what you learn in school and what you're expected to do in the real world. I'd like to point out that if you actually paid attention in school, education was never about getting a job. Education is descended from what Plato and Aristotle did with the academy and the lyceum. Being educated was to become a better person. It was an act of morality to be educated. It's like going to seminary. That's what it is. It's secular seminary. It was not ever about getting a job. And they're not vocational training centers, and neither are the companies that you want to work for. There's that bit in between there where either you do it yourself or you go to a specific institution for training. Now, whether or not that needs to, get subsidized, or whether or not these priorities are right with our education systems, I'll leave that to you. But please keep in mind what these places are actually for and where they came from. The real essence of this blob of knowledge called computer science is algorithms. And algorithms affect us, and they can affect us in negative ways, as we have seen through the last couple of election cycles all over the world and through advertising. They mostly affect society in negative ways. My central thesis with this presentation is that computers have mostly been a net negative for everybody's life. Please comment below if you can truly say that computers have been positive or negative in your life. Whether or not you write software for a living, or you actually use it to make money somehow. All right. I don't think there's ever going to be a true replacement for paper books, but computers, digital readers, all these things, they replaced books. They allow people to buy more books cheaply because they're now cheap, and to hold them in a less cubic space. So they effectively became printing presses. We aren't having to, print books that way anymore. They have always been calculators, of course, and now we can use them to produce music and movies and pictures and video games and other media production and consumption. The consumption and production can even happen on the same device. They've also effectively replaced telegraphs and telephones, just means of communication, as well as magazines, newspapers, and other kinds of media that are linkage institutions to whatever political system you have. Computers are also monasteries, because when computers replace books, they are also libraries that can self-replicate. The ability to copy-paste something so trivial that we've had for decades is the ability of the gods, that we can just think it, just will it, and there is more of information. And that's what computers are supposed to be doing. They are fast printing presses, and they do the trivial thinking that we could do but don't bother to do because we're the ones that have more important things to think about, right? But since computers, especially in homes, have been mostly negative, computers are effectively drugs, drug dealers, and human traffickers. A lot of them are built for consumption, not production. They can be addictive. They're made to be addictive. Every social media app is an advertising machine. And this challenges us. It challenges us to think about our agency and our will and our discipline and our epistemological ability to call out bullshit. They are a psychic chamber that is us. Everything that you put into a browser address bar, that's you doing that. Every time you swipe on an app, it's you making that choice. And it tells you a lot about yourself. It might tell you negative things about yourself. Looking at someone else's browser history is like seeing them naked. Or holding someone else's phone and seeing their apps. It's almost obscene to look at it. Because it's somebody else. And you just really aren't sure what you're going to find. I was going to go on, but I have just a bunch of pictures I wanted to show off. Alright, so here we see kids in the 80s playing video games. Video games have had this toxic effect mostly on males for decades now. And so through video games, we've understood that it's possible for software to just destroy and placate and what's the word? To make malleable and thoughtless, to really stupefy males. We've known that since the 70s and 80s through video games. It wasn't until social media that we could actually get computer software to have users that were half and half, male, female, like the regular society. And then some apps, like Instagram, cater mostly to females. And that has had toxic effects because then it starts to manipulate the weaknesses of women, and their instincts can also be hijacked by the advertising industry. It's a very sad state of affairs. Calculators. If we thought of computers just as these, I think we'd be generally a healthier society. This is the handwriting of Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, the man who invented calculus, gave us the long S notation. These are his notes about a machine that was kind of a precursor to a calculator. It was one of the hand-cranked calculators of his day. He actually designed one that worked on binary. This is a replication of what he designed. Here are some of his handwritten notes. You can see the ones and zeros like you'd see in a computer science exam today. And that was back in the late 1600s. In the mid-2000s, the comedian Conan O'Brien wrote an article in which he predicted that computers would eventually just turn into televisions. Which they have. But the worst part is they're television designed from the beginning to end to advertise and to just tell you what you want to hear and give you more of what you like so you stay on the device. And that has had a very toxic effect. So yeah, Conan was right. Computers became these addictive, expensive media consumption machines of media that is designed to just make us docile. Here's some medieval monks copying scripture. Computers make us think about, what information are we making that's actually going to last? A lot of books have been written in the last half century. But which ones are really going to be remembered? We don't really know yet. More books than have been written in any period of human history because the computers have been able to be produced. But who is really going to value them so much that they'd handwrite them? What really is going to capture and inspire people? We might be surprised what our descendants actually value. It's not just the West. Here's Eastern monks. Also, what books are gonna make people want to handwrite them like this? You could have say an atheist philosopher write just this long, thick tome, and a bunch of people buy an ebook of it. But what lasting effect do thoughts like that have if people don't value it like this? That kind of tells you something about um, how these pieces of literature get passed down. They mean more to a smaller group of people. They can capture people like this. All right. So this is what computers are doing for non-physical things. And how computers are used industrially is really how they make society better, but we don't really see much of that. Here is how computers can touch the physical world. This is the C. Zinger project. These are AI designed and then 3D printed supercars. They're making these supercars to get like the hardcore rich guys to buy it, get some money flowing in. But eventually, I think what you're seeing here is going to be replaced again by automation. And the effects of automation, it's a deep topic. And what the future is going to be, we don't know. What it should be, I'll let that be between you and your thinking. But being able to actually predict it's kind of like the weather. We don't really know. But I say we just need to kind of, swallow it and go forward here. Sam Walton. This is the founder of the largest physical retail chain in the United States. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. He wrote a book called Sam Walton Made in America. He was born in the 19 teens, and he had started off with a small chain of stores, and he had like a central office where he'd have a binder and cubbies, and you'd see all these papers of every store's income, and he'd have to sit there and tabulate and calculate all this stuff, and it was very long and laborious and tedious. And back in the 1960s, he understood when he went to go see these IBM machines that filled a room. Oh wow, these computers! This is going to be a big deal. So if you read his book, which I do suggest, you'll hear him say, "Hey, it's the computers and the trucks. That's what made my business." Yeah, he died in 92, and he understood more about what computers are actually supposed to be about than a lot of the Silicon Valley shitheads today. This is just a handwritten Quran. This is kind of goes back to what I was talking about, the value of books. If we can copy a book by a computer, like whoop-de-doo, that, you know, that does not really mean it's going to have big effects. If you really care about changing the the life philosophy of future generations, you don't just sit there and go type arguments on the internet. You write books, and then you buy them physically and you print them out physically, and you get organized, and there should be just secular churches, or there need to be temples built to your political philosophy if you actually want it to, if you actually believe in it. Is your ideology just a bunch of people sitting around agreeing with each other, or is it actually trying to change something in the world? Because changing something in the world is hard, and you have to make people care about your information, your literature, as much as they care about this literature. All right. Nighthawks. Why did I include Nighthawks in my thought blast? I think it was something about how jobs could go on without computers. And if that is so, why is there so much emphasis on them today? Did they actually make anything simpler? Did they actually make anything cost less for the consumer? All right. You talk a lot about AI today beating people, professional players of, chess and Go and whatever. And this is nice and all, but I think something that will combine the use of 3D printing, artificial intelligence, and robotics is when you can have a team of robots of a similar stature and build to professional athletes uh, beat them at a ball game. This is Australian football. If you can get a team of robots beating the best Australian football team, then I'd put that out like 2100. Then you're actually making real progress. But I haven't seen that yet. Okay, so here is just the mid 90s Kasparov fighting against a computer program. This is a little bit. Uh, I agree with Noam Chomsky that these board games that we play, they're fun between humans, but of course a computer can do them better. And that shows us, by the way, that a lot of what humans do is not really creative, even what we call creative. This idea of creativity is it we shouldn't be using it like a buzzword. It's a very, very weird thing. What is human creativity? I do not believe it exists in chess or Go or any finite state system. I don't actually believe it exists in basketball either. In the same way, it doesn't really exist in weightlifting. I can make a machine that can lift thousands of pounds, which is much more than any human champion weightlifter. Okay, whoop de doo. Of course, I could get a computer to do this. So, one thing that computers are doing through automation, both in thought and physicality, is not everything humans do is creative. And we have to take that into account. What I think is the last creative endeavor for computers is actually theology. I'm dead serious. If you can get an AI program to write a theology book and have a religious experience and have the Pope or the Dalai Lama or whatever read a theology book written by an AI and have tears come to their eyes and declare that AI a doctor of the church or something or a high lama, then I'd say you've really shown that human creativity doesn't exist. If you can really show that computers can write a theology book. You do not have to believe in a personal God at all to see that theology seems to be that last frontier of human creativity, and it's closer to what makes us human, even if you don't really believe it. AlphaFold. Here is something useful. This is computers as an expanded calculator. This was figuring out how proteins fold to help make cures for diseases. That's computers doing real shit. That's actually important and useful. And that's really what they should be about, but we keep doing hypnotic, you know, things for teenagers to express their sexuality. It's just absurd what we're doing these days. Advertising ruined everything. Uh, this picture was supposed to be the Lost Media Wiki. Uh, so lost media is inevitable. Most media is going to be lost. Movies, music, and television, as we know it, has been around for less than 100 years. And so we have no idea what's actually going to be existing 100 years from now. It'll be the 2080s before we can really look back and say, hey, did we keep Super Mario Brothers and Mac OS 3.0 around just for historical purposes? We, uh, I'm afraid we just don't really know. And actually, I take the negative. I think most of it is going to be lost. And all that is really surviving is some basic, written literature about how to make things. Like, say, Tetris will never be lost, even if the Tetris ROMs from the 80s and 90s are lost, because you can always recreate it. It's the survival of the well documented. And as I said with other forms of literature, that which is printed out still has a timer on it because it doesn't capture us quite like the literature of religion. AlphaGo, the same thing I said with the chess stuff. Again, fun for humans. I think Go is a great game. So is chess and shogi and Citoyen. But they're not here where human creativity is. Not at all. Okay, yeah, so the internet has made us all into this blob monster. This is from Half-Life. It's the Advisor. These are hyper intelligent grub worms that are so smart they were able to give themselves neurological implants to give them the vision of sight before they could see. And that's what that little blue thing is. And they made these flying chambers so they can fly and see. It is said that these aliens have a psychic connection, and in their mental world that they create together, they have entire libraries, and that's where they do all of their discussing and socializing. Humans naturally can see and hear and interact in the physical world, but we also have that gigantic cloud library of thoughts and feelings and ideas called the internet now. And thanks to the cyber balkanization effects of the advertising industry, we can people who would normally be completely peaceful can become hateful and violent. That's what we did. And so yeah, we do have these mental libraries and mental scapes, and they're destructive. Here's a pocket monster. This is what we do when we go back to the real world after being in the psychic chamber called the internet. When you start acting in real life like you do on the internet, you become violent and you keep thinking, oh yeah, my thoughts are gonna, hurt somebody. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. You want to know why something like January 6th happened? It's because of this shit. Fortress of Solitude from Superman. A little bit more. If you can keep your internet self different from your real life self, the internet can be halfway productive in that you realize it's just, quit thinking about others on the internet. Think about yourself. Look at that history tab on your browser. Look at every app on your phone and really examine yourself and say to yourself, this is me. But can I choose to be something else? I think a lot of us have that ability to find out that we actually are that better person. And we've been that better person all along. You just kind of have to look in the mirror. And that mirror is browser history, apps on your phone. That's you. If you want to change you, start changing that stuff. The essence of art. This is not a pipe, it's a picture of a pipe. Art on the internet, a lot of weird stuff has come out. I would not be who I am today without, Boku no Pico and Night Shift Nurses too, but this disconnect between what is real and what is imagined is the danger that all art has. Art can be very dangerous, and the internet has made us proliferate art. And what we actually end up doing with it, I mean, you have to let people be free to be self-destructive, and you have to kind of observe that self-destruction and know more about what not to be, what not to do, how not to live your life. That's necessary. Art informs you a lot about that. Just because you enjoy something, I don't really consider it good, because I think the computers and the internet have shown us that art can be addictive. And we have to keep that in mind. So that's why I kind of value non-anthropocentric design, because we get enough of it from pornography. You know, it means that everything has to become pornography. I mean, that's a deeper topic. Okay. Okay. Uh, I think this picture was supposed to be about how whether or not AI can make art and appreciate art the same way that humans can. Kind of like theology, appreciating art as kind of that last final frontier of what it really means to be human. It's mostly useless to us in our day to day lives, but um, art is something we still haven't figured out yet. We haven't. Uh, I don't think you are gonna just have a naturalistic argument of noun verb evolution by natural selection makes us like something. There's something else. I don't know what it is. All right, so yeah, I'd like to see a team beat the greatest players of the NBA all combined on a single team. I like to see the robots beat an NBA team, just like I want them to see them beat an Australian football team. And then finally, um, this book, which has changed the lives of so many urban yuppies, Bullshit Jobs by the late David Graeber. I think he was only like 58 when he died. It was sad. He didn't live longer. I think we've got Noam Chomsky. He's in his 90s and I think he's said everything there is to say. Um, David Graeber, in his book Bullshit Jobs, describes how all the advances in technology we've made allow there to be high paying jobs that don't do anything important. If you make software for a living, like, be honest, if you just quit tomorrow, is your company going to go under? Is the food on the shelf still going to be there? Is the water still going to be flowing? Is the sun going to keep shining and the food growing? Yes. The farmer driving the tractor, the guy driving the truck, the people putting the food on the shelf. All of our great engineering feats get us to the point where there's jobs that are important that aren't paid well, which is a scandal, and then the high paid bullshit jobs. And most software development is bullshit. After all, you can be paid a whole lot of money to work for Facebook or Meta or whatever the fuck they're called now, but at the end of the day, you work for fucking Facebook. So what are you doing? You're sitting there writing code that's going to make boomers stay on the website longer, get radicalized, instead of just going outside and enjoying their retirement and just be destructive. And so, yeah, computers have had a terrible effect on most of us. They've been a net negative for most of us. Um, I challenge all of us to ask, why do I have the internet at my house? Do I actually need it? If it mostly just reduces down to, what you need for work, and I mean actual for work, most of you, it's probably just an email, just for email, right? That's why you have it. And the absurdity is, hey, pay a bill every month to more conveniently pay your other bills. It makes no sense. I would encourage all of us to evaluate what our computers in our personal life are actually doing, what they're actually doing at work, and whether or not they are actually making anything better, like AlphaFold is, like a calculator is. Uh, as I've said with some of my other videos about cheaper computers, if we would be spending less on them if we were a more rational society, if we were a bit more introspective, if we did not believe that a bullshit job was a goal in life. Um, so this video has been going on for 30 minutes. Holy shit. Okay. I'm going to end recording here. Please like and subscribe and leave your ideas in the comments